Milburn,
Here.
Ostergren,
Here.
Russo,
Here.
Wolfson,
Here.
Censor.
Here. Approval of the agenda.
So move, Madam Chair.
Second one was, okay. Discussion? Roll call?
Ostergren,
Yes.
Russo,
Yes.
Censor,
Yes.
Wolfson, Milburn.
Here. Yes.
Motion carried.
Listen here.
Public comment. Is there any public comment?
Guess that's the only reason I came.
If you'd like to come up, make sure the green light is on.
I have to introduce myself, probably. Oh, you got my light on for me? Is that automatic? No.
I think,
Huh?
I think Andy first.
Is it
Andy.
Can you turn that on and off?
Andy did.
Green?
yeah,
Oh, so you can turn that off if I say something that you don't want to hear? Is that? Oh,
I can't. Nope.
Craig Cotterman, Houghton Lake. Watched the news this morning, 22 million under flash flood advisory today, 22 million. We're talking about raising the lake level of Houghton Lake, but we're also trying to understand what this banking of water has done to the lake as well. We have a very good USGS reporting site, interactive. You can go back and see the lake level. I don't know, it's some skips in the data, but I think you can go back 30, 35 years. You can see how the lake happens. If you want to, you can also look to see how many boards you had in and out. So if you were banking like 6 inches of water and we had a rain, when did you ever take the boards out? Did you let it go to 9 inches? Or could we be at flood stage, which is 18 inches over, and you'd still have boards in the dam? And I've seen this before. The center stop logs you hardly ever took out. Shevsky Construction, he finally found boards at the bottom of the dam that were in. So you were even banking water at flood stage. Kind of weird. Okay, 22 million flash floods today. You have supposed to have 2 new reporting sites. The one I believe is working, but I see some numbers on the left. I don't know if they're in feet or meters. It's not an interactive site. I couldn't really find any data on the site you have running under Shevsky Construction that was actually usable. If you look at it, I see no usable data there. I don't know if it's been calibrated to the lake level. We also have a second site at Harvey Marina, and I don't believe it's online. I looked again this morning and I couldn't access it. Of course, I'm not that internet savvy, so maybe it's there and I can't find it. But I do believe we're paying for that out of our special assessment money, and I'd like to have access to it. I think it was put in over a month ago. There's a reason it's not working, or there's a reason why this site can't be interactive like the USGS site. The USGS site, again, there's tons of data. You can access it. You can see what we've been doing or what you've been doing as a board. This new site, it's almost like you don't want people to know what's going on. So, thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Higgins Lake Delegated Authority update.
Higgins Lake, we were able to get the permit before the cutoff date with Eagle. I answered all the questions and sent that over to them. So now we're just waiting to hear a response on Higgins Lake. Finally, I think it was last week, we finally got the road commission permits in to set up all the gauge locations, so that should be going in shortly, I would expect, before the end of the month. For all 4 gauges on the hi-fi gauges, not my gauges, the hi-fi gauges on Higgins Lake. Any questions?
Are you saying, so you've submitted all the stuff to Eagle, now it's in?
It's in their
Ball's
hands.
in their court.
Ball's in their court.
Okay.
So
How long ago did that happen, Chase?
that was July 5th.
Oh, wow, okay, just happened, okay.
Yeah, it just happened. I would think we'd hear back within 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, good. Well, it's good that we all got on top of that as a committee in short time, because I know you had a limited amount of time.
Oh, yeah.
to get that done.
Yeah, July 5th. That was my due date. I guess any other questions?
Any other questions for Higgins? Houghton Lake.
As far as Houghton Lake goes, we went through the past appeal time. There were no appeals on the SAD on Houghton Lake. So I will try to get a meeting with the engineer before the end of this week, talk over what's going on there, and then start setting up meetings with the advisory board to start the communication back and forth on design on Houghton Lake. As far as the hi-fi gauges that Craig brought up, the one is only on the site. The other ones have not been brought online. The focus has been getting through the SAD and the appeal process and all that before messing with the gauges. The past data can be made available, but right now the lake is being held to the USGS gauge. So that's why those are not online and as interactive as the USGS gauge, because we're still going through that process. The USGS gauge will become offline, I think it's September 30th. So we'll have everything with the hi-fi gauge in line with that. As far as the datum and how it's calibrated, it's set up to the 88 datum, just like everything else on the lake. There's no calibration to the lake level. It's just everything's on the 88 datum. Questions there?
So that should resolve any of the questions that Mr. Connerman had about the gauges and everything. We're not online with it yet. We're really not online.
They're out there and they're getting data, but I haven't. No, it's not online because we're running off USGS.
Right.
So the only data we have currently is overlap data that will help to be used for design, but that data will be made public and can be made public and so on and so forth.
And what I understand, tell me if I'm wrong, instead of having just one gauge on Houghton Lake, you're going to have 2 gauges.
Yeah,
and then
there's one at Harvey's and then one at the structure.
Or the new hi-fi.
And the new hi-fi.
So that's going to be a more accurate measurement of what's really going on in the lake. In other words, since you're telling me sometimes there's a 6-inch fluctuation from one end of the lake to the other. Yep. Just like we have on Higgins, same situation on Higgins.
Not as extreme, but yes. Yes.
Yes, I have a question. Once we're all set up with these Wi-Fi systems, we're going to have it set up so people can automatically get
Correct.
information if they sign up with their email address?
I haven't been, there was a push to get them out there and communicate with them to get some overlapping data. But then with the SAD going and trying to get all that through, I haven't been.
Yeah, it takes time to set this up and calibrate and get everything situated.
It takes time setting it up and calibrating super quick, one day. Getting the interface that we want so they can code it to how the county wants it, that's going to take time.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so what you're saying is this is actually going to be a superior system to the USGS, because I look at USGS all the time. I don't get anything automatically sent to me.
No,
So
it's so now that we're through the SAD and I'm not focusing on that stuff, I can start going back and communicating with them and saying, okay, let's get that second gauge on there. How do we want it to look? And we start going through, because what they have to do is recode how it shows to give what the board would want to see going forward.
Is there some more stuff we can come up with to give you more work?
No.
I'm making a joke, of course. You're doing a lot of
No,
work.
he is not amused.
You're overworked as it is, so I'm just.
Okay. Any other questions for Chase on Houghton Lake? And Lake St. Helen.
Everything seems to be going well there. We got proposals in for engineering and design. We got 2 proposals from 2 different firms. I believe we will, I guess I'll go to the board, but I would recommend going with Spicer Group. They gave a very competitive bid. And it was actually below what we budgeted in the comp of cost. So that would be my recommendation there. As far as there was something. So recently I went out there yesterday to lower the gates, and the center gate was already down. So I don't know if that one, someone lowered it, or if because it's broken that the water got high enough, there was enough force to push it down, because it doesn't lock. It's just held vertical. That might be something, once we're done with this rain and I bring it back up, it might not stay. That's something to be aware of. St. Helen.
Kind of fortuitous, it automatically lowered itself.
Well, so it's a big flop gate, and if you bring it up, I think there's not enough weight on it to bring it back down, but if you get enough water, I bet it pushes it back down, because it doesn't lock in place up there. The locking mechanism and that gearbox is broken. So that's why in the past I said it can either be all the way down or all the way up and not in between.
Any other questions?
Yes, has it been confirmed the July 31st
Yes.
public hearing at Richfield?
Correct. Yeah, those notices I think go out tomorrow,
What time is that?
5:30 for the public.
And we're gonna use the fire hall
We're gonna
again.
use the fire hall. That seemed to work well.
Okay.
Is there going to be a project defined for Lake St. Helen? In other words, you're saying it's broken. Are we gonna be putting in a new dam?
Yeah,
Lake
so
St.
in the bid, there were two kind of proposals. One was replace with something in kind. So it would have gates and so on and so forth. And then there was an alternative proposal, which I think I would recommend going with, which would be a coffer system. It would just be essentially a sheet pile wall and with a spillway on the back, a set elevation, and you would just bury the old structure. That's going to save on cost and material and construction. The construction could probably happen in under a month with something like that versus several months. The only additional cost on that would be to go back and potentially have to change the lake level by getting rid of the winter lake level, not changing the summer lake level, but getting rid of the winter lake level, because the structure then only holds one level. It wouldn't be variable. But in the future, that would save on essentially all of my costs. I would never need to go out there to do anything, because it'd be a set spillway. So your only cost out there would be the gauges.
In comparison to size, and I don't know, what size is Lake St. Helen versus Higgins and Houghton? Quite a bit smaller, right?
Yeah, I don't know
A third, a half,
It's 2/3
two.
probably.
I'm sorry,
It's probably 2/3
2/3 the size of Higgins?
I'd say
of Houghton Lake.
like a quarter
Houghton Lake.
of Houghton or Higgins. Yeah, somewhere in there. It's relatively small.
Well, Houghton is twice the size, surface area as Higgins, twice the size.
And then I'd say it's a quarter of, yeah, I don't know, half of Higgins.
Half of Higgins, okay.
Yeah, quarter
Like
of,
one of the kidney parts on Higgins.
Yeah. so
And then how many property owners, lakefront owners on Lake St. Helen?
300 and some change.
Do we have like how many on Higgins or on Holt Lake, let's say for example,
I
3,000?
forget, like 3,000 something.
there's-
Yeah.
10 times as many, okay.
So, but I'm looking to keep costs, and then what's nice about that is the contingency that can keep rolling. It's not continue being drawn down by someone going out there and managing gates and so on and so forth.
What are the advantages of a winter level on Lake St. Helen? I've never seen any advantages of winter levels.
Well, so it came up during the the dam meeting where we went out to each dam and there were people there talking to me and the commissioners. And it came up that why do we have a lake level, winter lake level, if we don't have ice damage problems on this lake?
Mhm.
And that was a good question that was posed. And on St. Helen, I don't know of any ice damage, but that'll get looked into before, initiating everything.
Well, there's ice damage no matter what the level is at on any lake.
Well, I think what's unique about St. Helen is it's 3 lobes. It's small enough to where you're not getting large pushes of
Right.
across. There's not a lot of fetch. It's really going to push ice that do too much damage.
And we're probably gonna wind up with a fish ladder or something on this structure.
Yeah, that's going to be the recommendation is a fish ladder. Something to allow some flow in case it got really low.
What are the chances of the DNR accepting something like that? That
I was-
corridors have to be changed.
So I was during preliminary talks with Spicer, I was told very good that they actually prefer to have 1 lake level instead of 2.
What about the other lakes? Have they talked about any of that on the winter levels on any of the other lakes? Because I don't see any advantages at all of any winter level.
That's a talk for at that point that in my mind, both those lakes either way are going to have some sort of interactive structure to
Right.
manage.
Oh, we're right. I'm saying
Yeah,
that.
so that can get talked about after the fact. Because the structure you're going to have to build, you can't have a fixed elevation structure on those lakes because
Oh,
of
sure.
the area and the variation, where it's something that once we get through this whole process of repairs and replace and whatever needs to be done, that can be talked about in the future. But I don't think it's not worth even going down that road currently.
Well, I wasn't talking about doing that type of a structure on the other lakes. What I was talking about was the actual winter level, because ice damage.
We're on Lake St. Helen though.
Yeah.
We're on
I know,
Lake
that's
St.
what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So ice
Just Lake
damage
St.
on Lake St. Helen is negligible. Okay. Okay, I understand what you're saying, darling. I apologize.
That's okay.
And also St. Helen is basically what you can get rid of is regulated by the river.
I'm sorry?
The flow that you can get to the structure regulates how much you can get rid of on St. Helen.
Well, I think that's a great idea.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Number 9, unfinished business. We don't have anything listed. Motions and resolutions, we don't have any. So it brings us back to public comment.
Got me fired up. Craig Cotterman, Houghton Lake. So where do we want to start? Got 5 minutes, right?
Yep.
What time do you crack a joke? She always smiles. It helps my mind out when people smile. And there's other people that never smile. I'm one of those. Let's see, USGS. This site that you're gonna have, nowhere ever compare the USGS site. Again, this has been going on for over 30 years. We have all this data. We can see what we've seen. It interacts with the Muskegon River itself. You can go down to Everett. You can see when they're at flood stage. It actually interacts with the whole watershed. There's sites all over on the USGS site. It interacts with the Michigan, and it interacts with the United States as well. Flood areas, flood stage. And if we ever had wide scale flooding and needed FEMA to come in, we would have that gauge to report it. Doing away with it in September is, of course, premature. We don't even know how your site is going to work. I don't think you're going to. I don't think your site's gonna interact with the USGS site. Again, we need this data. And what Shepsky Construction is gonna be able to do will nowhere compare with the interaction capabilities of the USGS. We're paying a tremendous amount of money already. Why can't we keep this reporting site? I just think it's ridiculous. Okay, there's no way you should ever consider not drawing down the water at Houghton Lake. Ice damage is tremendous. I've had 30-foot of ice piled up in front of my home. I've watched the log cabin next door to mine, the ice come in and push it right off its footing. Actually filled the picture window up with ice, and then it pushed out the walls, and the roof fell down. Totally destroyed that house. A legal lake level, a legal winter level, which by 30 some plus years of data, and we've only hit the winter level once. And I think it was a mistake. Mr. Russo took office that year, and it's before he knew that the votes were on the side of the banking water. And that year we did briefly have, I think it was just a few days, we briefly had a legal winter level, which is 6 inches below the summer level. Again, springtime averages are 11 inches above legal level. And mainly it's because we could never get the lake down in the winter. Average winter levels are summer levels, 6 inches above. Springtime is 11 inches above. July averages, I think, around 6 or 7 inches average in July from the 30 plus years on the reporting site. Again, without the USGS site, I believe you're trying to cover up what you folks have done, and you're taking away a tremendous amount of data that can be used to manage the lake responsibly. Thank you.
Jay Shupke, resident of Lake Township. So it would be nice to hear every once in a while how the lake is being managed correctly, instead of continuing to go back to the past and talk about stuff that cannot be changed. On top of that, at Reedsburg, which is the next structure downstream, I wonder what system is used to maintain that lake level. Oh, guess what? Hi-Fi. But wouldn't it be nice if those, since that is has some effect on how Houghton Lake is managed, that they're with the same company on the same system? Thank you.
Nope. Only one public comment per person per time frame.
Doesn't control.
Any public comment? With that, this meeting is adjourned, and our next meeting will start at 9:05. 5 a.m. First up, we have the 2024-2025 Child Care Fund budget presentation.
Automatically turn on now, huh? So, yeah, it went green. I'm assuming that's on, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone, again. Back again for another year. You guys know me and Keely at this point in time. You all have a copy of the proposed budget, right?
Yes.
Okay. The first thing you'll see is always here as we look is really the number that you guys need to be concerned about is the second number. That is what the county contribution is requested to be. As you can see, that number is about 50%, or roughly, it's less than 50%. About 40 or so % less than it was last year, which is obviously a substantial amount of money in savings to the county. There's a couple reasons for that. The first and most is the Child Care Fund has switched their funding model for what are now called community-based services, formerly known as in-home care services, to a 75%, 25% reimbursement model instead of 50-50. Formerly, it was 50-50 county contribution, state contribution for everything. Now, as long as the youth is staying in community-based services, the county gets reimbursed at 75% rate. The reason for that is due to the juvenile justice reforms. One of the main goals in that is keeping kids in the community, their homes, and not in residential treatments. That has been kind of the way that we've been handling things for quite some time, at least since I've been here, and my predecessor was starting to go that route as well. So I think we're prepared for that. There's a lot of other things that are happening with the reforms that we'll get to in a second, but that's why that number is looking like it is. We obviously are bolstering our, if you look down, some of the things that we're increasing this year, and most of this stuff has come from decreases as well. So you can see that we've taken about 40,000 out of our another county detention allotment, and another 16,000 out of our placement costs for non-secure. And we've just reallocated some of those into further counseling, psychological evaluations. One of the things the reforms are going to do is require us to do a lot more evaluations on the youth throughout the pendency of their juvenile justice case. So we have services in place to do that. That's why the juvenile probation officer training is going up a little bit too. There's going to be more required trainings for them. The only other thing that's an increase in this year's budget, and again, it's just us moving money around, we're not really requesting more, is just for transports. We've run into a situation where it's become a little bit safer for the juvenile probation officer and the youth, obviously, to be transported by with law enforcement assists, and we've been gracious enough to be given a lot of assists from law enforcement for the transports. So that is why those numbers are going up a little bit, so we can compensate law enforcement in that regard, as we continue to appreciate that. Let's see. The only downside, or one of the main downsides to the reforms from your guys' perspective, is we used to be able to generate between $40,000 and $60,000 in revenue each year and recuperations for juvenile cost of care and things like that. That is one of the things that is going to be changing come October. The only thing we're going to be allowed to collect is restitution, similar to what the state's aim has been for other courts in the area. District court and circuit court have all had their revenue streams cut. Ours is going to be cut entirely. The state's made it very clear that they don't want their courts to be income generators, so this is what they're doing. So I think that in light of all of that, for us to be really an overall budget increase of about 18,000, knowing that we're losing about 40,000 of our revenue, so it's roughly 50% of that, and then still asking for about a 50% less county contribution is pretty good. As we all know, this budget is extremely variable driven. At any point in time, we could run into a situation where either through the neglect and abuse side, and that's usually where it happens, we run into a situation where a youth is removed from care and placed in court's jurisdiction for a decade plus at $400 plus a day. We don't have any of those currently right now, but that could happen at any point in time. So for us, it's about kind of making a solid budget for a lot of variables, which is a fun and interesting exercise to do. But I think that based on what we've been able to do in the past, the way we're framing moving forward to the future, we're in pretty good shape as far as the reforms go. I could talk about those for hours if anyone's more interested in the juvenile justice reforms and how that changes what we do. Let me know and we can talk about it. Let's see. The juvenile justice residential shortage does continue. Their per diems are still extremely high, just so you know where that is at. We're averaging between $300 and $400 per day for juvenile placement right now, with wait times, at least in secure facilities, at 6 to 8 months still. So that is still a huge issue for the state to take up. They're looking at, I've just started receiving surveys and things like that about bed space, but that's a long ways away, and it's a complicated problem because just as we ran into in this county, counties that need the placement centers the most are also the most porous counties in the state. So it's really tough to marry those two. So we're still doing that. On the neglect and abuse side, the legislature has expanded the amount of things that parents can, or respondent parents can appeal. So that inevitably holds up some dispositions and neglect and abuse cases as well. So you might see the numbers go up in things like in the future, foster care payments and independent living, foster care per diem, things like that in the future may rise with those. But looking in the future, that's about all I can say at this point in time. I'll know a lot more next year when the reform's been in place for a year, and we'll see where we're at. But essentially, that the number that we're asking for this year is that second number on the sheet, which is roughly, somewhere in the 40% less than what we asked for last year. In closing, all I'd like to say is that there's two things really. First is I want to give a shout out to Ms. Darso, who has helped us for the last 3 years, been a very, very important part of this process as she transitions to her new role in our office as a JPO. But without her, this would not have happened the way it does. She does a really good job with that. And then secondly, I think this is an important time to have the discussion, knowing that what we're going to be asking for is one of your biggest expenditures for the year as you look into framing all of your other discussions with employee insurance. That knowing what our figure is should hopefully help frame a lot of those discussions. So with that, is there any questions?
Yes.
I'd like to thank you and your staff for the important job you do. It's very important and impactful.
Any other questions?
Yes. I see, according to this, insurance for this is Blue Cross, not priority, like,
That's just how it's coded in the system.
but it is priority
It's
insurance?
priority, yeah. Yeah, everybody has the same insurance.
And the insurance went from 15,000 to 74,000 in 5 years?
I can help you with that one.
I figured you'd have to.
So the staffing levels have remained the same with the exception of the addition of the position that Ms. Darso fills. But when this was way back then, most of the people did not take insurance. They had it elsewhere, or they were married to somebody else in the building that had insurance. So now we basically are covering 5 full-time family coverages under it.
So essentially, when you look at the budget, if you look at it in basically 3 different quadrants, first quadrant, that second quadrant where the insurance is, and then the third quadrant, really the only thing that we can change at all is anything in the third quadrant. Anything in the second quadrant is benefits and salary of the group.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Wage and salary committee appointments. Controller Administrator Jody Valentino.
So we're about 6 months late, and I apologize. Thank you again to Michelle. As you are aware, as the Board of Commissioners, we do have a compensation classification policy that's in place. And as a portion of that, annually, the Board of Commissioners appoints a wage and salary advisory committee. This committee is to consist of no more than 11 county representatives. We do have the administration office representative in Noel Martin as our HR, who oversees and guides and trains, I guess, as people come in annually. They are tasked with the following duties: the annual review of our current classification and compensation system, the recommendations of annual updates within budgetary constraints to the Personnel Committee. How much do we need to still be where we want to be? Are we still, in a competitive situation without being too competitive? And then they also do the review and placement of any new positions that come within the current classification and compensation system. So basically, they take the tools that we invested in several years ago and utilize those with the comparable counties that have been selected to make determinations and recommendations. So that being said, this year we have had more people than ever that volunteered. I've presented you with a list of all of those people. Aaron Grace, Sheriff's Office. I also gave you their county longevity, just so you can see that it's a good mix. We have people that have been here for 21 years down to people that have been here less than a year. So what I would be asking is that at the next meeting, you guys would approve the appointments for the remainder of 2024 for this group.
Any questions? With no other questions, the meeting is adjourned and our regular meeting will begin at 10 o'clock.
I should have talked longer.
Regular meeting for July 10th, 2024 at 10. Roll call.
Spencer.
Here.
Milburn. Here. Wolfson. Here. Ostergren. Here. Russo.
Approval of the agenda.
Move, Madam Chair.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Ostergren.
Yes.
Wolfson.
Yes.
Spencer.
Yes.
Russo.
Yes.
Milburn.
Yes.
Motion carried.
The approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda, we have meeting minutes from June 17th, 2024, special meeting, June 26th, 2024, board meeting, and June 26th, 2024, budget and finance. Class A's in the amount of $1,678,211.92. Claims and accounts in the amount of $364,760.06. Correspondences A through S contain letters to the Board of Commissioners, MAC legislative updates, Eaton County resolution, letter from St. Clair County, Huron County resolutions, letter to the board regarding broadband, the Chevron Doctor MSU report, and the interlocal government agreement with Crawford County. We also have the monthly department reports from the Roscommon EDC, Roscommon County Sheriff for June 2024 activity report, animal control and shelter, June stats of 2024, and the controller report. Clerk, call roll, please.
Milburn.
Yes.
Spencer.
Yes.
Wolfson.
Yes.
Yes.
Ostergren.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We came on. Brenda Baxter, Director of Business and Economic Development Services for Roscommon County EDC and Michigan Works. Just wanted to give an update on the millage proposal that will be on the ballot for August 6th. So our group with MSU Extension is working fairly well together. We've been on some agendas for public comment at some of the townships. We will have a display ad that we're running in the resorter. We've got some signs coming. We've got some materials that I left out on the desk. So we're just out trying to educate the public on the 0.13 millage request for 6 years to continue economic development services and reinstate some 4-H programs here in the county. So everything seems to be going well. We've got some board members that have stepped up. And we're doing a lot of public outreach. So I just wanted to make the Board of Commissioners aware and the public on our efforts. Obviously, we are solely funded through the county. To continue economic development into the future, we're just kind of spreading the word and educating the public on the services that both entities provide. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thanks, Brenda.
Yes.
Julie Darton, MSU Extension District Director for 7 counties, including Roscommon. Just to piggyback on what Brenda was sharing, for the benefit of the commissioners and for the benefit of those who are present in the meeting. This experience of educating the public about this millage proposal has also given me the opportunity to learn more about the work the impact that we're having with MSU Extension and the impact of the EDC. So just to brag about our partner in this, the Economic Development Corporation has done a tremendous amount. I asked Brenda, how can we quantify the outcomes that you've had with the Economic Development Corporation? And she shared with me their year in review reports for 2019 through 2022. And I went through those reports and I made a list of every initiative that the EDC had been involved with in each of those years. And remember that there's one employee for which the county is paying about half of the cost for. And if you take that amount, it's about $50,000 annually. It has varied in the years, but we'll use that as a very round number to start with. But since 2019 through 2022, and remember, those included pandemic years where there was a huge influx of federal support to assist local communities. But the EDC in Roscommon County returned in those 4 years $17.50 for every dollar that the county invested, to the tune of almost $3.5 million. And that's not to say that if they hadn't been there, that money wouldn't have found its way to those businesses and through those initiatives. It may have. There would have just needed to be a different mechanism. And you all, or the body of commissioners, not maybe you, because you might not have been in office at that time, would have had to figure out a mechanism to interface with those businesses. Because the EDC is here in Roscommon County, they already were in place to do that work and to connect with those businesses and to make sure that they got their either loan or grant money that was coming from the federal government. And that's not to mention all the other areas in which the EDC does its work. And it's a broad base of support. So this has just made me more passionate about understanding the work that they do. You already know that I love my job, but I'm becoming quite a fan of the EDC through this work. This work has also brought me in touch with people who have been impacted in a positive way by our MSU Extension programs, our 4-H programs. Had the opportunity to meet a mother, Sandra, whose daughter Gabby has graduated from high school locally and is going to be attending the University of Michigan. And I assured her that we bear no ill will toward the University of Michigan. It's a great school, and we're really proud of this young lady because she was involved in state leadership activities through 4-H. She got the opportunity to be an instructor at our Exploration Days program in the past, teaching other youth about astronomy and helping them understand the joy of that. And she will be attending the University of Michigan this fall, looking to major in astronomy. And she gained confidence, she gained experience, she connected with a passion of hers, and she got to understand how that can lead into future career and educational opportunities. So these are the kinds of things that people are sharing with me that I just want to be able to share with the public. So again, this millage of 0.13 mils, 13 cents per $1,000 of property value. MSU Extension gets 10 cents of that, and the EDC gets 3 cents of that. And frankly, I think they deserve more, but we'll have to figure out how we can create some supports, maybe with some additional joint operations or initiatives moving forward. But the volunteers and people who are giving their time to the EDC are outstanding. They're doers in the community. And it just excites me to know that Roscommon County has that kind of asset and resource here. And we're doing all that we can to enhance those assets as well. So thanks so much for your time. If there's any questions for me, I encourage any member of the public or any member of the Board of Commissioners to reach out, and I'll see if I can answer that. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Any visitors? Unfinished business, we don't have anything listed, which brings us to new business, E91, Director Hire Recommendations.
Okay. We had a committee and they interviewed 3 different people. They chose somebody, came to authority board. We accepted their decision. That gentleman backed out. So now we're back to the drawing board. We're gonna have a special meeting and make the recommendations to another person that applied, that is very qualified also. So we'll see what the outcome is, and I'll have more information. The center is in good shape. The sheriff and Jody, the county controller, they're overseeing it along with the deputy right now, and everything's going smooth as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I address that? Do we have a time frame when that decision will come forth?
By our next meeting.
Oh,
We'll have somebody.
Motions and resolutions. Whenever our clerk is ready.
I guess I mentioned in the meeting that I wasn't on the agenda for a clerk report.
Oh,
So I'll just speak during public comment.
okay.
I know Bex likes that. Motion number 1. Move to approve Region 9 Area on Aging proposed 2025 annual implementation plan for aging services as presented. Plan includes state and federal requirements as well as advocacy and development objectives of the Region 9 Area Agency on Aging.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Ostergren,
Yes.
Milburn,
Yes.
Wolfson, Russo,
Yes.
Censor,
Yes.
motion carried. Number 2, move to adopt resolution number 2024-07-01, resolution approving issuance of bonds for Houghton Lake Level Control Structure Improvement Project. Resolution number 2024-07-01, resolution approving issuance of bonds. Whereas pursuant to Part 307 of Act 451, Public Acts of Michigan, 1994, as amended, the Roscommon County Circuit Court, one by order dated February 24th, 1982, established the normal lake level of Houghton Lake in the county of Roscommon to be 1,138.1 feet, provided, however, that said level be lowered to a level of not less than 1,137.6 feet from November 1 of each year until April 15, or ice out, whichever shall first occur. And 2, by order dated December 8, 2022, confirmed the boundaries of the Houghton Lake Level Special Assessment District for the purpose of financing lake level improvements and activities necessary to establish and maintain the lake levels. And whereas the Roscommon County Board of Commissioners has appointed Shepke Consulting LLC as the delegated authority within the meaning of Part 307 to take such actions as are necessary to maintain the normal level of Houghton Lake. And whereas the delegated authority has caused to be prepared a computation of costs for the first phase of the improvements necessary to maintain the normal level of Houghton Lake in the amount of $1,275,000, and has prepared a special assessment roll assessing such amount against parcels of land in the special assessment district. Sorry, that benefit from the project. Take a drink. It's a lot. Sorry. And whereas pursuant to notice given as required by Part 307, the delegated authority has caused a hearing on the cost of the project and the special assessment roll to be held on May 23rd, 2024. And following the hearing, approve the cost of the project and the special assessment roll. And whereas the computation of cost of the lake level project and the special assessment roll for the special assessment district have been approved by the board. And whereas the special assessment roll with the assessments listed shall be final and conclusive unless appealed in a court within 15 days of the date approved by the board. And whereas the delegated authority has proposed that the special assessment district issue bonds in the principal amount of not to exceed $1,275,000 to pay all or part of the cost of the project, and that the county pledge its full faith and credit to the payment of the bonds. And whereas Part 307 requires that the board approve the issuance of the bonds by the special assessment district. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the County of Roscommon as follows. The special assessment district shall be designated and hereafter referred to as the Houghton Lake Lake Level Special Assessment District. The appointment of Shepke Consulting LLC as the delegated authority within the meaning of Part 307 is ratified and confirmed, and the actions of Mr. Chase Shepke, appointed on behalf of Shepke Consulting LLC to act as the delegated authority. The board hereby approves the issuance of the bonds by the Special Assessment District pursuant to Part 307 to pay all or part of the cost of the project, the bonds to be payable from the special assessments for the project, and authorizes the delegated authority to take all actions on behalf of the Special Assessment District as are necessary to issue and sell the bonds as provided in Part 307. Special assessment rolls shall be payable in installments in amounts sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds. Pursuant to the authorization provided in Section 30705 of Part 307, provided that the bonds are issued in a principal amount not to exceed $1,275,000, the Roscommon County Board of Commissioners, by a 2/3 vote of its members elect, does hereby irrevocably pledge the full faith and credit of the County of Roscommon for the prompt payment of the principal of and interest on the bonds, and does agree that in the event that property owners in the Special Assessment District shall fail or neglect to account to the county treasurer of the County of Roscommon for the amount of any such special assessment installment and interest in anticipation of which the bonds are issued, when due, then the amount thereof shall be immediately advanced from county funds, and the county treasurer is directed to immediately make such advancement to the extent necessary. In the event that pursuant to said pledge of full faith and credit, the County of Roscommon advances out of county funds all or any part of the principal of and interest due on the bonds, it shall be the duty of the county treasurer for and on behalf of the County of Roscommon to take all actions and proceedings and pursue all remedies permitted or authorized by law for the reimbursement of such sums so paid. The chairperson of the board, the county administrator, the county clerk, the county treasurer, and any other official of the county or any one or more of them are authorized and directed to take all actions necessary or desirable for the issuance of the bonds and to execute any documents or certificates necessary to complete the issuance of the bonds, including but not limited to any applications, including the Michigan Department of Treasury application for state treasurer's approval to issue long-term securities, any waivers, certificates, receipts, orders, agreements, instruments, and any certificates relating to federal or state securities laws, rules, or regulations, and to participate in the preparation of a preliminary official statement and a final official statement for the bonds, and to sign such documents on behalf of the county and give any approvals necessary therefore. All resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as the same may be in conflict herewith are hereby rescinded.
Easy for you to say.
The last one was the worst.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, I have a couple questions. 1.275, does that include the payment of everything up to this point in time? Okay, and I also understand that it was quite a bit more than this, and Chase really got it worked down like half of what it originally was, we were originally considering. So, I want to get that on the record that he's really done a great job in doing that. So everything up to this point in time that we borrowed out of the tax fund is going to be reimbursed back to the tax fund for the Houghton Lake project. I just want to make sure. So what happens if we have some cost overruns? Are we going to have to come back to the well on this or what?
There's a contingency in there. There's a
Right.
by law.
How does that work?
I'm assuming that if any of the projects go over the contingency that, or
You have to
go
come
over
back
the
to us.
amount, that they're able to dip into that contingency that was set aside,
Okay,
but they cannot exceed the 1.275.
okay. I just want to make sure the public knows that then. Okay,
And I believe this goes through the design phase.
Yes,
I'm sorry?
goes up through the design phase.
Okay. Well, basically the 1.275 is everything.
Except the actual, whatever they're gonna do, the construction. Not the construction of,
Construction.
no,
right.
that's a second phase.
Preliminary studies, feasibility, the design, everything else like that. So
Not
what do we-
feasibility, is it?
Anything required Anything required up to this point and through the design phase, which we haven't got yet because they, you know,
So
we
then,
have, that's been hired out or
so that's
bid out.
1.275. So then that all gets completed, then we have to.
Then
do
we
bid
know where
on
we're
the
gonna
actual
go from there.
project.
Then we know where we're gonna go from there.
Okay, so we don't know what the actual project is yet.
Not at this point.
Not what type of structure is gonna go in, no. That's one of the things with the advisory board that they'll talk with Chase to figure out what is the best solution for Houghton Lake.
Right, so this really isn't the project as is worded. This is,
It's a project, it's considered a project,
okay. This is just the first phase.
yes.
Okay, first phase. Okay, that's what I was on. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Censor,
Yes.
Ostergren,
Yes.
Milburn,
Yes.
Russo,
Yes.
Wolfson,
Yes.
resolution adopted. Number 3. Move to adopt resolution number 2024-07-02, approval of the Michigan Public Safety Communications System amended and restated integration agreement as previously approved by motion on June 26, 2024. Resolution number 2024-07-02, approval of the Michigan Public Safety Communications System amended and restated integration agreement. Whereas the state of Michigan has requested the county of Roscommon to sign an amended and restated integration agreement, and whereas the county of Roscommon so wishes to approve the request as presented to ensure continued seamless operations and compliance for both the Roscommon County Sheriff's Office and Roscommon County E911 Department. Be it hereby resolved that the Roscommon County Board of Commissioners approves the amended and restated integration agreement as presented and authorizes Administrator Controller Jody Valentino to sign the aforementioned agreements on behalf of the county.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Ostergren,
Yes.
Wolfson,
Yes.
Censor,
Yes.
Russo,
Yes.
Milburn,
Yes.
resolution adopted.
Committee reports. Commissioner Ostergen.
I have none at this time because I didn't have any committees to attend, so I've got some coming up. You guys will get my report on those.
Commissioner Milburn.
Brenda and Julie gave the EDC report and I attended district health. They talked about, they gave a COVID update. I have the package here if anybody wants to look at it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Russo.
Personnel.
I had the agenda meeting on July 1st. I attended the Michigan Works Region 7B meeting on June 28th. We looked over and revised budget and the current budget and approved for a variety of different grant fundings, such as the My Reach 2.0 program, Wagner Pfizer Employment Services Plan, WIOA Customer Relationship Management, Capacity Building and Professional Development Plan, and Career Exploration and Experience Events. I had a personnel meeting, substance use disorder. This one was actually quite interesting because for the first time ever, they have broken down all 21 counties that are a part of this and really showed admissions for Roscommon County as an individual. Overall admissions are down about 5%. They're back to the pre-COVID years. Methamphetamine use is, however, drastically increasing. They did the breakouts from October through May. Roscommon County has had 148 admissions. Out of that, 83 were outpatient, 35 residential, 27 for withdrawal management detoxification, 3 were intensive outpatient. The groups were 26 to 39, made up 65 of those admissions, 40 to 49 made up 37 admissions, 50 to 64 age group made up 35, 18 to 25 made up 6, 65 plus was 4 admissions, and 12 through 17 was 1 admission. The primary substance use for the admissions is still alcohol with 77, other opiates and synthetics were 22, heroin were 19, methamphetamine 16, marijuana 7, and crack cocaine was 4.
Yeah, I got a report on the materials management. I filed a letter of intent with the state of Michigan, received notice, they accepted the letter of intent. Along with that came a lot of other things they forgot to tell you about. I had to notify every municipality in the county of our letter of intent with the help of Noel, who showed me how to move something from file to documents, and the help of Joellen in filling in email addresses because my computer won't allow me to. We got these notices sent out to 7 of the townships. I sent one by mail to Nestor Township, and I need to hand deliver 3 others yet. The notice, and then I have to publish it in the paper also. I have a meeting this afternoon at 2 o'clock with Mike Logan from Michigan Consulting and Environmental on maybe developing our materials management plan. I have an email, sent an email out to Christine Miller from Eagle, a question on the funding for such. I still have not heard back on that, but she may be on vacation or something. But at this point, we're still proceeding forward.
Thank you. Now it's public. Board comment. Yes.
It's kind of like a housekeeping thing. We get this electronically.
Mhm.
This has got to take a lot of time to prepare, collate, and it's very expensive. I see no reason to get an inch thick or whatever it is every week of paper. It's got to take our staff a lot of time also to put this together. I've got it all electronically here right on my computer, and we get it all in the email. I would ask the board to consider having this done electronically as opposed to wasting these copies are expensive. And we're low on budget right now. So I would say we should be able to keep these in electronic format instead of having them delivered by hand. Because I'll tell you where they end up. Everybody knows where they end up. Everybody here, what do you do with them?
I file mine.
And then do you ever look at them again?
Yes,
Okay. You can do the same thing electronically.
I can.
Store mine in a file. Yeah, we can do the same thing electronically. That's what I'm saying.
I print my own. I print my own, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I like to look at things. I don't know. It's just, maybe I'm.
So if you don't want,
Or something. I don't know.
what I would say is if you do not want a hard copy, let Joellen know that you don't want a hard copy. And whoever wants a hard
It's very
copy.
nice. It had to be a lot of work to put it together. Is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. So just let her know.
So.
Commissioner Melbourne.
You old guys.
Ditto, Mark, ditto.
I'm good. I don't have any board comment. Have any board comment? Okay. Public comment. Come on up.
Name is Jean Lawrence, and the sound is so bad in here. I'm wondering if you could give me a short summary of of Rex Wilson's report. We couldn't understand a word. It was just muffled. Now, I
have a
didn't even
difficult
know
time
what
hearing Rex
topic
also,
you were
I
on.
must admit. I don't know if it's his machine or what, but I have a difficult time hearing him also.
I mean, we have a difficult time with everybody. The last report, I have no idea what topics were.
Madam Chair, can I comment on it?
Yes.
I have a really extreme hard time. My hearing aids just don't work in here hardly at all. Some people I can never hear no matter what they say or how loud. I agree, our acoustics in here are bad.
There is a lot of, maybe it's where you're set. Probably that's what the problem is probably where he's setting in the acoustics.
but I'll talk to you after the meeting.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes. Briefly veteran.
All right, Michelle Stevenson, County Clerk. So I just wanted to give you a quick heads up that we, along with the presentation from Controller Valentino about appointments, also have candidates for appointment for the Veterans Affairs Committee. So I will bring those to the next meeting as well for approval. And just to give you a quick update, been so busy getting ready for the election that is now less than a month away, and fielding a lot of phone calls and complaints about various things, signs, candidate behavior, stuff like that. Some of the stuff I've never heard before in 12 years. So just trying to navigate all of that. And so I was last minute coming in here. I had a phone call from an individual, and I thought it was like, okay, I'll call real quick. And this 25-minute phone call, I'm like, I have to go potty before a meeting. And so like to share. Still busy with jury stuff. We've got the jury board will be convening next week. I did end up adding a second date for election inspector training. So I will be doing both of those trainings next week. And that's really all I have. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I do have one more thing. One of the things that we do, services that we provide in our office is especially during elections, is printing of labels for candidates. Currently we charge $1 a page for that. I think that needs to increase. And so the cost for that has to be approved by the board. So I would like to bring that, if you want me to present at the next work session, I will be happy to do that. Just to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at and everything. It does take some time. And the other thing that I'm going to ask too is that to be able to require a deposit, because I have a request that is still sitting in my vault, that request came to over $300. And the individual has been reached out. They've reached out a couple of times to this individual. We've not heard anything back. So I want to create some sort of a policy. So I would like to present that at the next work session to you, and I'll work on that and have something for you on that.
Michelle, how is the early voting? Has early voting started yet?
No.
When does it start?
July 27th for 9 days. But absentee ballots are available.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to comment about the charge for the labels. When I was in business, I sold nothing for $1 or less. It's either more or it was free, because it wasn't worth the time for $1 or less.
Any other public comment? Okay. With no further public comment, this meeting is adjourned. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.